The Galactic Council chamber had stood for 10,000 years. It was a place of order, of law, of power. Inside its vast dome of silver and crystal, the voices of thousands of species rose and fell in steady rhythm. Every word was measured. Every decision was weighed. Nothing ever broke the silence except the calm voices of the delegates. Today was no different, or so it seemed. From the highest seats to the lowest, alien leaders sat in long arcs of polished stone. The light from the central sun crystal poured across the chamber, bathing the delegates in a golden glow. The Zorati with their plated hides, the Krull with their webbed faces, the Ursathi with their endless eyes, all were present. They had gathered to discuss trade, borders, and the endless squabbles that had filled the stars for centuries. It was supposed to be another predictable session. Another day of speeches and votes. Then, the doors opened. At first, no one understood what they were hearing. The doors had not opened in centuries. Every delegate turned. The guards stiffened. And then it came, a sound that had not echoed in the chamber in living memory. Footsteps. Not the soft shuffle of alien feet. Not the hum of levitation pads. But heavy, deliberate footsteps. A sound older than the chamber itself. Human footsteps. The noise carried across the chamber like thunder. One step. Then another. Then another. Each one echoed against the silver walls. Conversations stopped. Delegates froze mid-sentence. The silence was so deep that even the humming crystal above seemed to dim. Whispers broke out. Impossible. They were banned. Extinct. No, exiled. How are they here? Who allowed this? Every species knew the stories of humanity. Dangerous. Reckless. Too violent to ever sit among the stars. Long ago, the Council had dismissed them as a mistake of nature, creatures born on a death world, too savage to ever join civilization. Yet now, before the eyes of the entire galaxy, they had come. 3 humans stepped into the chamber. They wore no armor, yet they moved with the calm of soldiers. Their faces were hard, carved by years of struggle. One carried a black case, long and sealed with strange markings. Another held nothing but a datapad. The third, the leader, walked empty-handed, yet his presence filled the chamber like a storm waiting to break. The guards moved at once, weapons raised. But the leader only raised his hand, palm outward. "We come unarmed," he said. His voice carried like iron through the chamber. The words shocked the delegates. Not because of the meaning, but because of the sound. Human voices were rough, harsh, unrefined. To the Council, they sounded like the growl of predators. The presiding speaker of the Council, a tall crystalline being of the Orati, rose from his seat. His voice rang sharp and metallic. "Humans are forbidden here. You have no right to stand in this chamber. Guards, remove them." But the humans did not move. Instead, the one with the datapad stepped forward. With a press of his finger, a projection filled the chamber. The Council gasped. On the holoscreen appeared a world, burned black. Cities lay in ruin. Ships drifted in orbit, torn apart. The planet's surface glowed with fire. This, the human said, was the colony of Drathis. It died 3 weeks ago. The holo shifted. Another world appeared, empty. No cities. No signals. No life. Just silence. This was Lernus. Gone. The holo shifted again. Another, and another. A trail of dead worlds. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Impossible. Pirates. No pirates could do this. The human's voice cut through the whispers. Not pirates. Not war. Something older. Something you refused to name. The chamber fell still. The humans let the silence stretch. They wanted the words to sink in. They wanted the delegates to remember the stories whispered in their archives, the stories of the hunters that had once stalked the stars. Finally, one delegate, a scaled being of the Krull, hissed. Lies. Human lies. You bring false images to frighten us. You always were deceivers. The humans ignored him. The leader stepped forward, eyes sweeping the chamber. You know the truth. You've always known. The apex predator is back. The words dropped like a stone into deep water. The chamber erupted. Voices clashed in fury. Impossible. That species was destroyed. Fairy tales. Exterminate the humans now. Guards advanced again. But the humans stood tall, their faces calm. The leader spoke again, his voice louder this time, cutting through the storm. You think your council is safe. You think your fleets can protect you. But we have seen the signs. We have walked the ruins. We have found the scars. The apex predator does not hunt planets. It hunts civilizations. The chamber grew darker, as if even the great sun crystal dimmed at the words. For a moment, no one spoke. No one moved. Then the presiding speaker's voice rang out, cold and sharp. Remove them. The guards raised their weapons. The humans tensed. The chamber held its breath. But then, something strange happened. From the shadows of the chamber, a sound came. Soft at first. Almost too quiet to hear. A low, guttural sound. Scraping. Metal against stone. The guards froze. The delegates stopped breathing. Slowly, every eye turned toward the far wall of the chamber. There, just for an instant, something moved. Something that should not be there. The scraping grew louder. Claws against metal. The air grew heavy, as if the chamber itself were holding its breath. The human leader did not move. His eyes locked on the shadows. And then he spoke the words that would haunt the council forever. You hear it now, don't you? The sound you've tried to forget. The sound of the predator. The chamber shook. Lights flickered. Delegates screamed. And in that instant, the Galactic Council, the most powerful body in the stars, realized that the humans had not come to frighten them. They had come to warn them. And the warning had already come too late. The council chamber had never known such fear. The echoes of claws scraping against the silver walls lingered long after the sound itself faded. Delegates clung to their seats. Guards kept their weapons raised, not sure where to point them. The glowing sun crystal flickered, as if something was draining its light. But when the lights steadied again, the shadows were empty. The claw marks on the walls were gone. Nothing remained. Silence. The presiding speaker rose slowly, his crystalline body trembling with light. An illusion, he said. His voice was sharp, desperate. Human trickery. They use old legends to frighten us. But his words lacked conviction. Even as he spoke, his gaze flicked nervously to the corners of the chamber, as if expecting the scraping sound to return. The humans did not argue. They only stood in the center of the chamber, calm, waiting. Finally, the human leader spoke. His voice was low, carrying across the chamber like a storm. You can call it lies. You can call it fear. But the truth has already begun to spread. Your colonies are vanishing. Your fleets are failing. And the apex predator has returned. The chamber erupted again. Delegates shouted. Some demanded the humans be executed. Others begged for proof. The human with the black case stepped forward. With a hiss, the case opened. Inside lay fragments of metal, dark, scarred, and burned. He placed them on the central table. This was taken from the wreck of the Ylthari fleet, the human explained. 40 ships. Gone in less than an hour. This is what remains. The delegates leaned forward. The fragments bore deep gouges, as if torn apart by something with claws instead of weapons. The metal looked melted, eaten away by acid. This is impossible, whispered one delegate. Not impossible, the human replied. Unstoppable. He tapped his datapad, and another hollow appeared. This time, it showed a drifting vessel, massive and black, its hull jagged like teeth. It seemed less like a ship and more like a living thing. Its eyes, yes, they looked like eyes, glowed faintly in the dark. Gasps filled the chamber. The apex predator does not build ships, the human leader said. It grows them. It feeds them. And when it strikes, there is no escape. A delegate from the Krull slammed his clawed hand against the table. Lies. Old myths to excuse your trespass here. The predator died long before your kind crawled into space. The human turned to him. His eyes were hard, unflinching. Did it? Then tell me, how do you explain the worlds that vanish? The fleets torn apart? The silence spreading through your borders? The Krull had no answer. The chamber grew uneasy. Whispers rose again. The delegates looked at one another, fear passing between them like a contagion. The Orati presiding speaker struck his staff against the floor, his voice ringing metallic and sharp. This is fear-mongering. The council will not be ruled by myths. Humanity has trespassed here without permission, and for this alone, they must be punished. The guards moved forward. Their weapons hummed with power. But then, something happened. The lights dimmed again. The great sun crystal flickered once, twice, 3 times, then died. The chamber plunged into darkness. A scream tore through the silence. Something moved in the shadows. A delegate's voice gurgled, then cut off. Panic erupted. Blaster fire lit the darkness in short bursts. Guards fired blindly. More screams. The air filled with the stench of blood and burning. The humans stood still, their eyes adjusting, their bodies tense. They had expected this. They had warned of this. From the blackness came the sound again. Scraping. Metal on stone. Claws dragging across walls. The sound grew closer. Louder. And then, something emerged. The lights flickered back, just for an instant, and every eye saw it. A shape clinging to the walls like a spider. Black as night, with limbs too long, claws glistening wet. Its eyes burned red, reflecting the fear of the chamber. The apex predator. Not a myth. Not a story. A living nightmare. It moved faster than sight. A guard vanished, pulled screaming into the dark. Another was cut in half, his weapon clattering uselessly to the floor. The chamber dissolved into chaos. Delegates trampled one another, fleeing for the exits. The presiding speaker shouted for order, but his voice broke with fear. The predator leapt, landing on the central table with a crash. Its claws tore through the black metal fragments as if mocking the human's warning. It stood tall, its body like living armor, its mouth filled with endless rows of teeth. The humans did not run. The leader reached inside his coat and drew a weapon, small, but deadly. With a crack of thunder, he fired. The shot tore into the predator's chest, making it shriek with rage. The sound rattled the chamber walls, piercing ears and shaking hearts. The delegates froze. They had never seen such defiance. No one had ever dared face the predator. But the humans did. The predator lunged, faster than thought. The humans dove, rolling across the floor. Another shot rang out. This time, the predator's limb exploded in a spray of black ichor. It screamed again, retreating into the shadows. Silence fell once more. Every delegate stared at the humans, at the strange, reckless creatures who had faced the nightmare and lived. The human leader lowered his weapon. His voice cut through the chamber, calm and cold. Now you believe us. The Orati presiding speaker trembled, his crystalline form dimming. What do you want of us? The human's eyes swept the chamber. Not what we want. What you need. You cannot fight this alone. You need us. You need humanity. Because we are the only ones who have fought predators like this, and survived. The chamber was silent. No one dared argue. No one dared deny. The predator's shadow still lingered in the corners, a reminder of what waited in the dark. And for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council, the most powerful body in the galaxy, felt powerless. But humanity did not. For them, this was only the beginning. The council chamber still smelled of smoke and blood. Pieces of alien armor and shattered weapons littered the floor. Black ichor from the predator's wounded body stained the silver walls. The great sun crystal flickered weakly above, as if afraid to shine too brightly in this cursed place. Silence hung heavy over the delegates. Many still trembled in their seats. Some clutched wounds, others whispered prayers in tongues older than light. They had seen the impossible, an ancient nightmare stepping from myth into flesh. And they had also seen the humans fight it. 3 fragile creatures from a small death world had stood their ground when no one else did. Their weapons had burned holes into the predator's armor. Their defiance had pushed it back into the shadows. But instead of gratitude, anger rose. The Orati presiding speaker struck his crystal staff against the floor. The sound cracked like lightning through the chamber. His voice, sharp and metallic, rang out. "Guards, arrest the humans." The words stunned the chamber. Even those who despised humanity gasped. The human leader, calm and still, did not flinch. His 2 companions shifted, ready to draw weapons, but he raised a hand to hold them back. "Arrest us." His voice echoed, steady, controlled. "We just saved you. Without us, the predator would still be feasting in this chamber." The presiding speaker's form shimmered with fury. "And yet it was you who brought this curse upon us. You burst into this chamber uninvited, carrying forbidden weapons, spreading terror with stories of dead worlds. Now the very monster you speak of appears in our midst. Coincidence? No. I see only conspiracy." The delegates erupted again, voices clashing like storms. "They lured it here," shouted one from the scaled ranks of the Krull. "They command it," hissed another, trembling. "They are predators themselves." Fear had twisted into rage. To the delegates, the easiest answer was always the same: blame the humans. The human leader took a slow step forward, eyes sweeping across the sea of alien faces. "You fools," he said, voice low but cutting. "You've lived in safety for so long, you've forgotten what danger looks like. That thing out there, it doesn't care about your council. It doesn't care about your power, your fleets, your laws. It only knows hunger. And now, it has found you." His words should have carried weight. But fear does not listen to reason. Fear only seeks someone to punish. The Orati speaker slammed his staff again. "Enough. Humanity has always been a scourge. We should have burned your world when we had the chance. Guards, take them." Dozens of armored soldiers advanced. Their weapons hummed with energy. The 3 humans stood together, back straight, eyes cold. The chamber held its breath. Would they fight? Would they kill the guards? Would they prove, once and for all, that they were the monsters the council feared? The leader lifted his hand again. His companions stayed still. He allowed the guards to surround them. "You think you can silence us," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "But you cannot silence the truth. The predator is here. And it will not stop. You will see soon enough." The guards shackled their hands with glowing restraints. The delegates exhaled with relief, though unease still lingered. Many dared not look into the humans' eyes, afraid of what they saw there. Not fear, not submission, but cold certainty. As the guards dragged the humans away, the chamber descended into chaos once more. Some shouted for execution. Others demanded exile. A few, trembling with doubt, whispered, "But what if they are right?" The presiding speaker ignored them all. His body gleamed with false confidence. "The council will stand united," he declared. "We will not bow to human lies. We will not bow to fear." But even as he spoke, a strange sound reached the chamber. Low, distant, a tremor. It came from the deep walls of the station itself. A vibration that rattled cups, shook papers, and sent shivers down spines. Delegates froze, listening. The presiding speaker faltered, his crystal form dimming. What "What is that?" No one answered. The tremor grew louder. The walls groaned. Then, faintly, like whispers in the dark. Scraping. Every delegate knew that sound. Claws against metal. The chamber erupted in panic. Voices screamed. Guards raised weapons in every direction. The presiding speaker tried to shout for calm, but his voice cracked. Deep down, even he knew. The humans were not lying. The predator was not finished. And it was already inside their walls. The humans were marched down a long corridor of shining silver, their hands bound by glowing cuffs. Guards flanked them, weapons ready. The human leader walked calmly, his eyes scanning every detail. He did not look like a prisoner. He looked like a hunter biding his time. One of the guards spat bitterly. "Your trick will not work, human. You brought the beast here. But the council will see your world burn for this." The human turned his head slowly. His cold stare froze the guard mid-step. "If you burn our world," he said softly, "you'll be burning the only shield you have left." The guard sneered, but deep inside, fear gnawed at him. Because even now, the walls trembled again. And far down the corridor, the lights flickered. Back in the chamber, the delegates shouted over one another, desperate for answers. What if the humans are right? The apex predator, it cannot be real. It was here. We saw it. No, it was human trickery. They staged it. The presiding speaker raised his staff to silence them, but the chamber shook again. This time harder. Pieces of crystal rained down from the ceiling. The great sun crystal above flickered once more, dimmed, and went out. The council chamber plunged into darkness. And in the blackness came the sound again. Scraping. Closer this time. Louder. Something was moving inside the walls. Something vast. Something hungry. And as screams erupted, the council realized too late, humanity had not brought the predator. Humanity had only warned them. But no one wanted to believe. Now, they would pay the price. The lights of the Galactic Council chamber had gone dark. Shadows covered the walls like black oceans swallowing light. In the silence, thousands of alien leaders huddled together, terrified. Some whispered prayers. Others clutched weapons they had never drawn in centuries. And then it came again. Scraping. Long, slow, deliberate claws dragging against silver stone. The sound grew louder, closer, circling the chamber like a predator toying with its prey. A single scream broke the silence. One delegate, an insectoid from the Larathi, was yanked upward by something unseen. His body thrashed in midair, then split in half before he even had time to cry again. Blood rained down onto the polished floor. The council erupted into chaos. Delegates ran for the exits, pushing and trampling each other. Guards fired blindly into the shadows, beams of energy flashing across the chamber. But the beams struck nothing. The predator was too fast. Another scream. A reptilian delegate tried to crawl beneath the tables, but the predator's claws pierced him, dragging him away. His tail whipped against the floor until it fell limp. The chamber became a slaughterhouse. The predator revealed itself fully now, dropping from the ceiling with a crash that shook the chamber. Its body was vast, armor-like skin glistening black. Its limbs were long and jagged, ending in claws sharp enough to tear through steel. Rows of teeth lined its mouth, glistening with blood. It towered above them all, eyes burning with red fire. For the first time in thousands of years, the mighty Galactic Council screamed like children. Far below, in the holding corridor, the humans felt the tremors. The guards around them stumbled as the walls shook and lights flickered. The human leader lifted his head. His cold voice broke the silence. It has begun. The guards looked at one another nervously. A low growl echoed through the hall, vibrating through the walls. Then, suddenly, the ceiling split open. A claw, long and black, shot down and skewered a guard, pulling him screaming into the darkness. The remaining guards panicked. They fired upward, beams slicing through the air, but the predator moved like smoke. Another guard vanished. Then, another. The humans stood untouched. The leader's calm voice echoed, "Release us, or you'll all die." For a heartbeat, the guards hesitated. Then another claw tore one of them in half. His blood splattered across the glowing shackles. Sparks flew, and the energy restraints failed. The humans were free. The leader bent down, picking up a fallen weapon. He spun it in his hand as if it had always belonged to him. His two companions armed themselves just as quickly. The surviving guard stammered, his voice shaking. "What are you?" The human looked at him coldly. "Hunters." Then they ran toward the chamber. Inside, chaos ruled. The predator tore through the council chamber like a storm of claws and teeth. Delegates died by the dozens. Guards tried to hold their lines, but their weapons barely scorched the creature's armored hide. The Orati presiding speaker stood frozen on the high dais, light flickering dimly inside his crystalline body. His staff trembled in his hand as he watched the slaughter below. He had spent centuries ruling through order, fear, and control. None of that mattered now. Before the predator, his words were useless. The creature leapt onto the central table. Its claws tore through a dozen fleeing delegates. Its mouth opened wide, releasing a scream so sharp that the walls cracked under its force. The council was breaking. Then, the doors burst open. The humans entered. Their weapons cracked like thunder. Explosions of light tore into the predator's hide, making it reel back with a shriek. Black ichor sprayed across the walls. The delegates froze in disbelief. They had just condemned the humans to imprisonment. They had called them liars, predators, savages. Yet here they stood, fighting back when no one else could. The predator lunged toward them. The human leader rolled aside, firing at its burning eyes. Another human threw a device, a small sphere that exploded with blinding light and deafening sound. The predator staggered, screeching in rage. The chamber filled with smoke and fire. "Get up!" the human leader shouted at the cowering delegates. "Move! Run!" Some obeyed, stumbling toward the exits. Others were too paralyzed by fear to move. The predator roared again, swinging its claws at the humans. One of the companions took the strike on his shoulder, armor tearing and blood flowing. But even wounded, he fired back, blasting a hole clean through one of the predator's limbs. The creature screeched, retreating to the walls. The humans regrouped at the center of the chamber, standing between the predator and the survivors. Their clothes were torn, their faces streaked with blood and smoke. But their eyes burned with defiance. For the first time in the council's long history, true warriors stood in its chamber. Not politicians, not diplomats, but survivors of a death world where every day was a battle. The predator hissed from the shadows, circling. The human leader raised his weapon, steady hands aiming into the dark. "You think you're the only predator here," he whispered. The battle raged for long minutes. Each time the predator struck, the humans countered. Their weapons, simple, brutal, efficient, were unlike anything the council had ever seen. They didn't fire for show or ceremony. They fired to kill. The chamber filled with smoke and the screams of the dying. At last, the predator made a mistake. It lunged too far, too fast. The human leader hurled another device, this one a spear of crackling energy. It struck the predator in the chest. The creature shrieked, convulsing, its armor cracking. Black ichor spilled across the floor, sizzling as it touched the polished stone. The predator collapsed, thrashing. Then it lay still. The chamber fell silent. Only the humans stood, weapons raised, waiting for it to move again. Finally, when the silence stretched too long, the human leader lowered his weapon. He looked around at the terrified delegates. "This was only a scout," he said. His voice was steady, cold. "One hunter. One shadow. The real swarm is coming." The delegates gasped. Whispers spread like fire. The humans' gaze hardened. "You can keep denying it. You can keep pretending you are safe. But you saw with your own eyes. You know the truth now. His words rang through the chamber, heavier than any staff or vote. The council, the most powerful gathering in the galaxy, had just been saved by the very species it despised. And outside, in the endless void, more shadows moved. The chamber stank of smoke, blood, and fear. Shattered tables lay across the floor, broken bodies scattered between them. The shining walls of the Galactic Council, once a symbol of order and peace, were now painted with streaks of black ichor and alien blood. The Predator's massive corpse twitched in the center, its armored hide cracked and smoking from human weapons. Its jagged claws still gleamed, wet with the lives it had taken. But the silence that followed was not peace. It was dread. The council delegates huddled together, wide eyes staring at the humans. No one dared to speak first. The ancient order of the galaxy, their pride, their authority, had been shattered in a single night. And then the human leader broke the silence. This was not the enemy, he said. His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of a hammer. It was only a scout. Gasps spread through the chamber. Some laughed nervously, their minds too weak to accept what they had seen. Others began to whisper furiously, clinging to denial. But the humans did not flinch. The leader stepped forward, boots echoing on the blood-stained floor. He carried no staff, no badge of office, only the weapon still hot from battle. You have grown soft, he said, eyes scanning the alien leaders. You hid behind walls of order, believing rules would protect you. But predators do not care for rules. His words were like knives. Each one cut deeper than the last. The Orati presiding speaker, trembling with light, finally found his voice. You knew, the speaker stammered. You came here with warnings. You brought us tales of shadows and hunters. How? The human turned his gaze toward him. His expression was unreadable. Because we've fought them before. The chamber erupted into noise. Delegates shouted, argued, cursed. Some accused the humans of lying, of inventing fear to seize power. Others demanded explanations, their voices breaking with panic. The speaker raised his crystalline staff, striking it against the floor. The echoes silenced the chamber. Explain, he commanded. The human leader's eyes narrowed. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he motioned to his companion. The second human produced a small device, no larger than a fist, and placed it on the central table. The device activated. A beam of blue light shot upward, forming a spinning image in the air. The chamber fell silent again. It was not a map. It was a memory. The hologram showed a battlefield, ruins of a once-living world. Fires burned across broken cities. Mountains were carved open as though ripped apart by claws. The air was filled with smoke and screams. And then, they saw them. Hundreds of the predators. They crawled over the ruins like locusts, towering beasts moving with terrifying speed. They tore through armored soldiers as if they were paper. They feasted on the bodies of the fallen, their teeth ripping flesh with animal hunger. But there was something else in the image too. Humans. Armored soldiers, scarred and furious, fought back. They moved in squads, weapons firing in brutal rhythm. Explosions tore through the monsters' ranks. Predators screamed as human firepower ripped them apart. The image froze on one scene, a lone human standing atop a burning wall, holding a weapon that glowed with light. Around him lay the broken bodies of the predators. His face was bloodied, but his eyes burned with defiance. The chamber gasped. This, the human leader said, was not ancient myth. It was war. A war your council ignored. The Orati speaker's crystal dimmed with unease. Why were we never told? Why was this not brought to us? The human's jaw tightened. Because you never wanted to hear it. To you, humans were too violent, too wild. You locked us away on our world, told us we were dangerous, unfit for your order. But that violence, the part of us you feared, was the only thing that kept us alive when these creatures came for us. He gestured to the dead predator lying at their feet. This one is nothing compared to what we faced. They hunt in swarms, in waves that blot out the sky. They consume worlds. Civilizations vanish in days. The delegates shuddered. One, a feathered ambassador from the Kalari, collapsed into his chair. The speaker's voice shook. How many did you face? The human's answer was cold. Too many. And not all of us survived. But enough did. And we learned. He lifted the weapon in his hand, black smoke still curling from its barrel. We learned how to kill them. The chamber fell into chaos again. Some shouted that the humans should be elevated, given command. Others screamed that humans were to blame, that perhaps they had brought these monsters into the galaxy themselves. Fear twisted into paranoia. Old rivalries flared. The humans watched silently, their faces unreadable. Finally, the speaker struck his staff again. The chamber hushed. You claim knowledge of this enemy, the speaker said slowly. You claim survival. If this is true, then the galaxy needs you. The human leader's gaze darkened. No. The galaxy doesn't need us. He paused. The chamber held its breath. You need to decide if you deserve us. The words hung in the air like a blade. For the first time in living memory, the Galactic Council, the proud rulers of the stars, were being judged by outsiders. By humans. The human turned his eyes toward the predator's corpse. His voice dropped to a whisper, but every word carried. This was only the beginning. The swarm will come. And when it does, your walls, your rules, your fragile order will shatter like glass. He looked back at the council, his expression hard as steel. Only predators can stop predators. And whether you like it or not. He raised his weapon. We are the deadliest predators the galaxy has ever made. The chamber erupted, not in laughter, not in denial, but in silence. A silence born of truth too heavy to escape. And outside, far beyond the council's shining walls, the stars shifted. In the black between worlds, shadows were gathering. Waiting. The chamber was quiet long after the humans left. Silence pressed down on the alien leaders like the weight of a dying star. The predator's body was gone, burned by human fire until nothing remained but ash. Yet even without its corpse, the smell of blood and fear lingered in the air. The walls of the Galactic Council felt smaller now, weaker. And for the first time in millennia, the Council was afraid. When the humans walked out, they did not look back. Their faces were hard, their weapons still in their hands. They knew the whispers had already begun. The galaxy was splitting. Inside the council chamber, the shouting returned. They brought death into this place, screamed the Kalari ambassador, his feathers trembling. Look at them. They march in like conquerors, carrying weapons of slaughter. They are no saviors, they are killers. Others shouted in return. The killers saved us, bellowed the scaled Threxian delegate, his heavy tail slamming against the floor. Without the humans, we would all be corpses in that chamber. If they can fight these monsters, then we need them. You would hand them power? Snapped the Orati speaker, crystal light flaring. Do you not see? They do not follow order. They do not respect council law. They think themselves above us. The council broke into chaos, voices overlapping in a storm of fear and rage. But beneath all the noise, one truth could not be silenced. The galaxy was no longer safe. That night, in the private halls of the council, alliances began to shift. Some gathered in secret rooms, whispering of fear. They believed the humans were a greater danger than the predators. A violent species unleashed would be as destructive as any swarm. If the humans were allowed to rise, they might seize the galaxy itself. Others gathered in quiet trust with the humans. They had seen the fire in human eyes, the defiance that would not bend. Perhaps that was what the galaxy needed, a predator to face the predators. But trust was a fragile thing. In the human quarters, the leader sat in silence, staring at the weapon laid across the table. His second-in-command, a scarred soldier named Vela, leaned against the wall. "They don't believe us," she said bitterly. "They believe enough," the leader replied. His voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "They saw the truth. They can't erase that. But belief won't hold them together." Vela frowned. "Some of them are already plotting against us. I can feel it." The leader's eyes lifted. For a moment, the fire inside them dimmed. "They'll have to choose. Stand with us, or burn when the swarm comes." Meanwhile, far across the chamber halls, in a dimly lit room of stone and glass, another meeting was taking place. The Orati speaker sat with 5 others, their faces hidden in shadow. "The humans are dangerous," he said. "They will not bow. They will not obey. Today they save us, tomorrow they may rule us." The others murmured in agreement. "But what of the swarm?" asked one, a soft-bodied envoy trembling in fear. "If the humans are the only ones who can fight them, then we must learn what they know," the speaker interrupted. His crystalline form glowed faintly. "We take their weapons. We take their knowledge. And once we no longer need them." The chamber went quiet. "We erase them." But the galaxy's stars were not waiting. On the edge of space, where light faded into black, shadows stirred. Dozens of ships drifted silently, their shapes twisted and jagged like the creatures themselves. They carried no banners, no signals, no sign of peace. They carried only hunger. From the command chamber of one massive vessel, a predator mind stirred. Not a beast, but something far worse. A commander. Its thoughts slithered like knives across the hive link, calling the swarm together. The scout was dead. The prey had teeth. But the swarm was endless. The hunt would begin again. Back in the Council's shining city, cracks widened. The Threxians declared their allegiance to the humans, offering ships and soldiers to their cause. Their warriors respected strength, and in humans they saw true predators. The Kalari declared the opposite, calling for the humans to be expelled from Council space before they brought destruction upon them all. Other species wavered in silence, waiting to see who would rise. It was the first true fracture in the Council in centuries. And it was only the beginning. In the human quarters, a visitor arrived. A tall figure cloaked in shadow, carrying no insignia, bowed low before the human leader. "I am not here as a council delegate," the alien said quietly. "I am here as a survivor. My people, we have faced the swarm too. Long ago. We hid the truth, fearing no one would believe us. But you have the same scars we carry." The leader studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Then you know what's coming." The figure's voice trembled. "Yes. And I will stand with you. But beware. The Council is already moving against you." The human's jaw tightened. "Let them come," he said. "We didn't come here to be loved. We came here to win." Later that night, Vela stood on the balcony, staring at the stars. She could feel the weight of silence pressing against her chest. Somewhere out there, the swarm was gathering. She whispered to herself. "They don't understand. They never will." Behind her, the leader's voice was low. "They don't have to understand. They only have to survive. And for that, they'll need us." He looked up at the stars, eyes dark and unblinking. "But when the swarm arrives, and the galaxy learns the price of survival, they'll fear us more than ever. And maybe—" His voice trailed off into silence. "Maybe they'll be right too." Far beyond the city, in the endless dark between stars, the swarm moved. And with every ship, every claw, every hiss of hunger, the shadow grew closer. The galaxy had been split. Alliances were breaking. Trust was dying. And when the predators came again, they would not come quietly. They would come like a storm. The stars shook. At first, it was only a whisper. Strange signals drifted across the void, broken fragments of code and static. Some said it was only the echo of dead suns. Others claimed it was council trickery. But the humans knew. The signals were not echoes. They were claws scratching at the walls of the galaxy. The swarm had come. In the shining city of the Council, alarms rang for the first time in centuries. The great shields rose, casting the skies in a red glow. Panic spread like wildfire. Ships crowded the skies, diplomats fled, and whole fleets scrambled to meet the threat. But when the swarm arrived, the galaxy realized the truth. No fleet was enough. It began at the edge of Council space. A colony world of green plains and silver oceans woke to the sight of black ships blotting out the sun. The swarm descended without warning. They did not land like soldiers. They fell like meteors. Creatures poured from burning vessels, their bodies twisting and reshaping as they struck the ground. Within hours, the colony's cities were gone. Within a day, the world was silent. And within 2 days, it was no longer a world, it was a nest. The Council's fleets tried to respond. They fired, they burned, they sacrificed ships in desperation. But the swarm spread too fast. For every vessel destroyed, 2 more appeared. For every creature burned, 10 more crawled from the shadows. The Council's order collapsed. Inside the Council chamber, chaos reigned. "We told you!" screamed the Kalari, feathers drenched in panic. "We told you the humans brought this." "Fool!" the Threxian roared, slamming his claw against the floor. "This was coming no matter what. Without the humans, we are already dead." The Orati speaker rose, crystalline body glowing cold. "Then we have only one choice. The humans must be contained. Their strength will be used, but on our terms, not theirs." The chamber erupted into shouts. Some demanded alliance, others demanded control. But the humans were no longer there to listen. They were already moving. In their quarters, the human leader stood over a star map. Red lights bled across it, marking the spread of the swarm. Each one was a burning world. "They're moving faster than we thought," Vela said grimly. "They're not striking randomly. They're carving a path." The leader's jaw tightened. A path where? The answer came from the alien ally who had revealed their own scars in Part 6. His voice trembled. "They're coming here. Straight for the Council." The room went silent. Hours later, the swarm arrived. The Council's outer defenses lit the void with fire. Thousands of ships formed walls of light, beams crossing in deadly arcs. But the swarm did not fight like the Council. They hurled bodies as weapons. They turned their own ships into living missiles. They let vessels burn just to crash into fleets, spilling claws and teeth into enemy hulls. The Council fleets broke. One by one, ships scattered. Lines collapsed. The shields of entire worlds fell. The swarm was inside. On the ground, chaos spread. Council citizens fled through the streets as shadows fell from the skies. Screams echoed in the towering halls. For the first time in history, the Council's home was under attack. And in the middle of the burning city, the humans marched. Armor sealed, weapons burning with fire and thunder, they cut through the streets. Where others fled, they advanced. Vela shouted over the comms. "The swarm's breaching the lower levels. If they take the chamber, the Council is gone." The leader's voice was steady. "Then we hold it. No matter the cost." Inside the chamber itself, the swarm burst through. Creatures shattered the golden doors. Claws ripped through the sacred floor. Screams filled the air as Council guards fell one by one. The Council leaders shrank back. For all their power, all their centuries of rule, they were helpless now. But then the sound returned, the sound that had shattered silence in Part 1. Human footsteps. The doors behind the chamber burst open, and the humans entered. Rifles thundered. Fire lit the air. The swarm shrieked as their bodies burned. The leader strode forward, every step cutting through smoke and death. His voice roared above the chaos. "Get up. If you want to live, fight." The aliens looked at him in shock, but something broke inside them, a chain of fear. One by one, they rose. Even the Orati speaker lifted a weapon of crystal light. For the first time, the council fought together. But the swarm was endless. No matter how many fell, more poured in. The chamber shook with their claws. The humans fought like demons, but even they could not hold forever. Vela was dragged down by 3 creatures before blasting them apart. Her armor smoked, her voice ragged. "We can't hold much longer." The leader's eyes burned. "Then we don't hold." He pulled a device from his belt, small, black, pulsing with light. The aliens stared in horror. "What is that?" one cried. The leader's face was stone. "A weapon. Human-made. Built for the day we couldn't win." The council froze. "Will it save us?" "It will save someone," the leader answered. "But it will burn everything else." Before he could activate it, the chamber ceiling cracked. A blast of light split the air. Not swarm fire. Something else. From above, human ships descended through the burning skies. Sleek, dark vessels, bristling with weapons the council had never seen. Earth had arrived. The chamber erupted with light as human warships opened fire, tearing the swarm apart with precision strikes. The leader looked up, fire reflected in his eyes. They came. For the first time, his voice broke into a smile. Humanity came. The swarm retreated, torn from the skies. Their endless tide was forced back into the dark. But everyone knew it was not victory. It was only survival. The council stood in silence, staring at the humans who had saved them once again. But in their silence, fear grew. If this was what humans could do with only a handful of soldiers, what would happen when their fleets arrived? The battlefield was not silent when the swarm retreated. It screamed. The skies burned with wreckage. The ground cracked under mountains of corpses. Ships, both council and swarm, drifted like broken bones across the void. But inside the council chamber, there was silence. Humans stood among the dead swarm, their armor scarred, their rifles smoking. Council leaders cowered in the shadows of their own throne room, staring not at the creatures, but at the humans who had slain them. And for the first time, a thought took root. The swarm was terrible. But humanity was worse. Above the planet, the battle still raged. Human warships moved with terrifying precision, cutting through swarm vessels as if they were prey animals. Their weapons did not just fire, they tore reality itself, beams that cracked hulls in an instant, missiles that turned whole ships to ash. The council fleets watched in shock. Entire battle lines, broken only hours before, were now restored under the human's shadow. But even then, the swarm did not stop. Something greater was coming. The signal hit every mind at once. It was not sound, not light. It was a voice inside their skulls, cold and endless. The chamber shook as the council clutched their heads, bleeding from their ears and eyes. Only the humans stood firm. The leader raised his head slowly, eyes narrowing. "It's here," he whispered. "The swarm's commander." The ground split open outside the chamber. From the depths rose a creature unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was vast, a mountain of shifting flesh and bone, wings stretched like shadows over the city. Its many eyes glowed with void fire, each one whispering madness. The swarm's apex had arrived. Every lesser creature froze, then bowed, their shrieks now a chorus of worship. The galaxy's predator had come to claim its throne. The council screamed for retreat. The Orati speaker collapsed to his knees. Even the fiercest Threxian warrior threw down his weapon. But the humans did not move. The leader stepped forward, rifle in hand, voice steady. "You wanted to meet us," he said. "Here we are." The apex's voice thundered in every skull. "You are not prey. You are not predator. You are wrong. A mistake in the dark." The leader's lips curled into a grim smile. "Funny. We were thinking the same about you." The battle began. The apex struck like a storm, claws shattering towers, wings smashing ships from the sky. Its scream turned air to fire. The swarm surged with it, a tide of claws and fangs. But the humans fought back. Warships roared overhead, raining fire upon the monster. On the ground, armored soldiers advanced, cutting swathes through the tide. The leader charged, dodging claws that split the earth, firing round after round into the apex's flesh. Vela fought beside him, her armor cracked, her blade burning white. Every strike only slowed it. Every wound closed. The apex could not be killed. Then came the moment. The leader, bleeding and broken, pulled the device from his belt again, the weapon no one wanted to see. A black sphere, humming with death. "This is it," he said, voice heavy. "We detonate this, and it dies. But so do we. So does the city. So does everything." The council leaders screamed in protest. "No. You cannot. There must be another way." But the apex only laughed. "Sacrifice is weakness. You will burn, and I will endure." The leader's thumb hovered over the trigger. And then the skies split. A voice boomed across the battlefield, deep and clear. "Stand down." From the largest human ship in orbit, a weapon emerged. Not a missile. Not a beam. Something older. Something buried. The humans had not come empty-handed. They had come prepared. The weapon fired. A line of light speared the apex, not burning flesh, but burning its soul. Its scream shattered mountains, tore holes in the sky. For the first time, the apex bled something that did not heal. The leader dropped the device. Hope burned in his eyes. "Now, everyone, fire." Council soldiers rose. Crystals, claws, plasma, and light, every weapon fired at once. For the first time in history, the galaxy fought as one. The apex roared, thrashing, tearing through walls, but the fire did not stop. Humans led the charge, and the galaxy followed. And then, with a final scream that shattered stars, the apex fell. Its body burned, then turned to ash. The swarm froze, then collapsed into lifeless husks. The tide ended. The predator was gone. Silence returned to the council chamber. The galaxy had been saved. But no one celebrated. Every eye turned to the humans. The council speaker, trembling, whispered, We owe you everything." The leader wiped the blood from his face. His expression was unreadable. "No," he said quietly. "You owe us nothing. You only need to remember what you saw today." His eyes swept across them all. "We are not prey. We are not your servants. We are not your children." He pointed toward the stars, where human warships hovered like dark gods. "We are humanity. And the galaxy is no longer the same." The humans turned, their armor glinting in the broken light, and walked away. The echo of their footsteps filled the chamber, louder than the swarm, louder than the apex. The galaxy would never forget that sound. The day humans crashed the council. The day they confronted the galaxy's predator. The day everything changed.